to another episode of Lost Gotham TV, episode number 3 of our series of short episodes exploring the movies that love and inspired me and my friends. This episode we're going to be talking about horror films. We're going to stay away from a lot of the big series movies that are out there. You know, franchises like Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street have a lot of fans and followers, and they're great, but there's a lot of them. They're juggernauts. They have so much material. It's kind of like things like Star Wars and Star Trek when it comes to sci-fi. You know, they're just so big, there's so much of them. They're just automatically, you know, they are good. If they weren't good, they wouldn't have made so many of them. Even the bad ones are kind of good. I know that some people would argue that with me. But, so that means I'm not going to be talking about my favorite horror franchise, which is Friday the 13th. I love Jason Voorhees, love the Friday the 13th movies, with the exception of the one. I'm sure most people who know the series know which one. And again, even it has fun moments. It was just a little desperate on the part of the filmmakers. But I digress. Let's see, I'm not going to talk about some of the classic movies from my childhood, things like Gremlins or American Werewolf in London. I love those movies, but they're not on the list. There are other movies that I like more, love more. I really enjoyed the Scream movies. The first one in particular, because it makes fun of all of the franchises and things like that, and so I love what they did with that. But it too doesn't make it onto the list. So only 5 movies could really go onto the list, and here we go. Movie number 1 on the list is the remake of Dawn of the Dead. It's a fun movie. It's one of the few remakes that, for me, is better than the original. It has a great cast of actors, so again, if you've watched the other episodes, you'll know that that's something that appeals to me. I love the kind of group team dynamic of people coming together to survive or to do something. And Dawn of the Dead has that. It has a group of survivors in the mall. It has great special effects. It's, again, talking about it as a remake, it's a movie that took the original and just really built upon it in really positive, good ways. A lot of times remakes can be really kind of lazy. This is not one of those movies. It's scary, it looks great, good story, good action, good all around, scary movie that doesn't give in to a lot of the kind of gross out things. That's another series. There's a couple of series of movies that didn't make it onto the list, Hellraiser and Saw. I enjoy both of those franchises as well, but Saw kind of epitomizes the torture porn kind of subgenre of horror, and whilst I do enjoy them, I don't necessarily celebrate and endorse them. I prefer something that's a little more intellectual and is there more to scare you than to gross you out. And Dawn of the Dead does a very good job of flirting with that line. You've got some gross stuff in there, but you've got a lot of other stuff in there too. Action, drama, suspense. It's just a good movie. Number 2 on my list is another movie that kind of compiles a lot of different things together. It's got action, it's got horror, it's in a way a heist movie, it's got lots of comedy, it's just got a lot of stuff going on, and it is directed, I think they both directed or they both wrote it, but anyway, it's from Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez, 2 very talented filmmakers, and that is From Dusk Till Dawn. It's a road movie, it's a vampire movie. Again, it's more than just one movie. You have like one movie for the first part, and then somewhere around the middle, when they lock the doors of the bar, it suddenly turns into another movie, and you have a host of great special effects guys playing cameos in here. Tom Savini, other names, Greg Nicotero. It's just got a whole bunch of cool actors and cameos. Juliette Lewis. It's a great movie, well written, it's fun. You know, it's not just a horror movie. You know, a lot of movies tend to, they can be like just that. I enjoy movies that aren't just that. They're that, and they're this, and they're this, and they're that. And From Dusk Till Dawn delivers on that. I mean, it's earned several sequels. It's got a TV series going on now. And there's a reason for that popularity and that continued interest. It's a great story. Alright, speaking of great stories, this is probably one of, not necessarily one of the first horror movies that I watched, but it's probably one of the first horror movies that I really loved and I really had a connection to. It's a big piece of my childhood. I own copies of this movie on British VHS. I think I have an American VHS. I have it on DVD, Blu-ray. I want to get it on Laserdisc. I have the soundtrack for it on LP, CD, and cassette. It's a great movie, and it is Lost Boys. Continuing that trend, by this point you should know kind of the movies that I like. You've got the Frog Brothers, and you've got Sam, and you've got Michael, and they're working together to try to get away from the vampires in the film, played by some great actors, Kiefer Sutherland, Alex Winter, people would know from Bill and Ted. It's a fun movie. You've got a great soundtrack, one of Joel Schumacher's best films, in my opinion. He's made some horrible movies and he's made some great movies, and Lost Boys is definitely among the greats. It's a lot of fun from start to finish. You've got interesting camera work, great acting, a really fun script, good makeup, special effects, great one-liners. You talk about movies that come out of the 80s, one-liners and 80s movies. They just go together. There's a synergy there, and I guess that's one of the movies, one of the things that make this movie so great. Lines like Death by Stereo and just stuff like that. It's a great, fun movie. Even if I do have a nagging suspicion, even though I've read differently, one of the things they did in Lost Boys was, in order to make the vampire blood more interesting, they added glitter to the blood, so that after some of the vampire death scenes, the heroes end up with covered in vampire blood, which when they get out into the sun glitters. Stephanie Meyer, whatever her name is, she claims it didn't have any, she claimed not to know about it, so it didn't have any influence on Twilight, which for me is like the worst vampire movie ever. Series of movies, just as a concept, they suck. And pun not intended. They don't suck blood, they suck pond scum. They are badly written books and well-made movies, but a well-made movie of a bad book is just a polished turd. Let's move on to the next movie, number 4 on my list, and it's again a classic movie, John Carpenter's The Thing. Much like Dawn of the Dead, The Thing is a remake, and it is one of the rare examples of a good remake. If you see the original movie, the Thing from Another World, I think. Anyway, if you see that, it has a lot more story to it. And what John Carpenter did was strip away some of that story. He streamlined it and he made it a lot scarier. both with the the tension and suspense, but then also with special effects which to this day still stand up. You know, if you see the special edition kind of DVD stuff with the behind the scenes, you'll see that they dumped some kind of iffy looking stop motion effects, and I'm glad that they did, because the movie would not have been as great as it is if those effects had been left in. The effects that are in there are so groundbreaking, breathtaking. They are amazing, scary, realistic special effects that still stand up 20, 30 years later. You know, that's the hallmark of a good movie. You had good actors, well directed, great story, great scary movie. They made a sequel, prequel thing that doesn't. It really is not good. It's good, but it's a shadow of John Carpenter's thing. The things just don't line up. And before I get sidetracked on another rant, I'll move on to the last movie on the list. This is a relatively new movie. I saw it a couple of years after it came out, and I really enjoyed it. It's an anthology movie, so that it has several stories in there. And again, for me, I enjoy anthology movies like that. It's one of the things I'm kind of looking forward to. Some of the upcoming Star Wars movies that they're going to be making, I think, are supposed to be anthology movies with multiple stories in them. But again, getting off track, back on track. The movie that I'm talking about is Trick or Treat. It's a great, smaller movie. I'm sure lots of people who like horror films know about it, but people from other backgrounds may not. It's fun. With the exception of the Jigsaw from the movie Saw, Sam from Sam Hain, which is mispronounced. It should be pronounced Sawen. But Sam, the kind of evil protagonist, antagonist character from the Trick or Treat movie, is one of the few modern horror icons. And there's just one movie. You know, you look at things like Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Halloween, Scream. You know, you've got 3, 4, 10 movies. Pinhead, the Cenobites from Hellraiser, Norman Bates from Psycho. They have all of these movies. Sam, Trick or Treat, there's just one movie, and he's still a new modern icon. And that speaks to the cleverness of the story and the filmmaking. And it is just a great, fun movie that is great to watch on, you know, like Halloween, coming up to Halloween. It has a lot of the same kind of vibe and feeling of the Michael Myers Halloween movies, but it has so much more. I mean, the sub-stories that are in there, it has a lot going on, and for me, it pays homage to a lot of classic horror tropes. Yeah, just a great, fun movie that is, I don't know, for me, I almost think it's good enough for the, you know, kind of friendly enough for the whole family, maybe. I don't know. I'm sure that I'm wrong. I need to watch it again. You know, there's got to be some nudity and some really kind of out there violence in it. But I just remember it being a really fun movie. So, I don't know. Maybe that's just me. But yeah, those are my 5 favorite horror movies that I can think of. There are a lot of other great ones out there. But those are the 5 that I chose to talk to you about. If you have any other suggestions, maybe something that I forgot about or, you know, didn't think of, leave a comment below. You know, don't be too angry. You know, if I missed it, I missed it. There are a lot of great movies out there, and I'm trying to pick only 5 out of hundreds or thousands of great movies. So yeah, hopefully I was able to shed some light on something that you hadn't known about, you weren't aware of. And yeah, if you go and you watch these movies, you will not be disappointed. I hope that you take me up on that. And until then, I will see you next time.